All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Kristen Luidhardt. Kristen, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be joining you.
This is so awesome. I want to start by giving a shout out to Brianna over at the Interview Valet team. I had actually interviewed Tom, the founder of Interview Valet, probably about a year ago for the podcast. And then after that, Brianna started reaching out to me just here and there, saying, Kev, hey, I think so and so, that's one of their clients. I think they would be a great person for you to interview for your podcast. And the first time she did that, I took a look at it. I'm like, wow, it looks like a great person. I'd love to have a conversation with him. And so we had that conversation. Then we made time to do an interview, and it was a great experience. And of course, they're really great over there at Interview Valet about following up to say, hey, how did it go? Was it good? Was it a good experience? And I was like, man, that was great. And I'm like, feel free to send more people. And so now everyone probably, I don't know, maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks, I get an email from Brianna saying, and in fact, it's ironic because I just shared with you before we hit the record button. I just got another email from her today. Haven't looked at it yet, but I'm like, ooh, this is probably going to be good.
They are hardworking over there and they're very thorough. They do
Yeah.
a great job, and you're exactly right. They do an amazing job with follow up, follow through, very professional, very service oriented. They're wonderful to work with.
Yeah. And when they connected me with you, it wasn't just with you, it was with you and your husband. And
Yeah,
so
you got a
I
twofer.
I did. I got a twofer, and I've already, I started out with your husband, and we did an interview. We got to know each other, kind of got on a Zoom call just to get to know each other, then did the interview, and now you and I are in the same spot. And I had that first conversation with you, and I said, well, heck, I knew after talking with your husband that I was sold on doing an interview with you too. But I just love what you guys are all about and stuff. And I also just love the pivot that you guys are kind of, I don't know if I call it a pivot. I don't know what you guys, but the next evolution, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm totally stoked for that because I believe this connection couldn't have come at a better time because now there is so much alignment between your world and my world and stuff, and I get jazzed thinking about that.
I
So
do too. I can tell we're kindred spirits in that way, because it's so true. And by the way, the feeling is mutual. The focus of this podcast, I think, is so interesting. Even going back through and listening to previous ones to kind of get up to speed, and wow, there's a lot to live up to. I mean, the bar has been set really, really high with the guests that you've had, and what all is covered. And so I think it is such an important topic, not just in business, but in life. Um, the importance of relationship. And so
yeah.
I'm really happy to be talking about it with you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, I've long believed that as entrepreneurs, two of our most valuable assets are relationships and trust. Those are two of the most valuable assets we got. And if we got that, my gosh, the business part becomes so easy from there. And so it just becomes a lot easier. You just connected with the right people and stuff just flows and happen and it can happen so quickly, and it can be on the opportunity just keep getting bigger and bigger. So I just want to turn it over to you, Chris, and I want to give you the opportunity to share. And I want to just like set some context and give let our listeners get a really good picture of who you are and what you're all about. And so, to be able to share maybe, I don't know, maybe some background about how you got into doing what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most. And I know that's kind of broad, but you'll fill in the pieces.
Okay, well, I can do that. I'm an extrovert, so I never am at a loss for words per
There you
se.
go.
The real challenge is being succinct.
Uh-huh.
So I
Uh-huh.
will work on that. But no, my background, I've been in politics and political marketing for almost 20 years. My husband likes to age us and he'll say over 20. And I'll say, hey, wait a minute. Don't add any more years onto this. Ladies, I know you'll feel me on this. I don't need to add any extra years. Um, but it's been such a whirlwind journey. And, we have worked all across the country. We've worked for some of the toughest political campaigns. We serve Republicans. You really have to pick a side. And so we've been doing that for a really long time and got really good at raising money online for those candidates. And so, again, learning about how to build rapport and trust and relationships with a donor and with a small dollar donor, and seeing how that has transpired, has been really interesting. And we've done that. We've worked for some amazing people. And now you mentioned the pivot, but really, we really felt called, God calling us to serve and do more. And so for such a long time, we'd have people say, hey, can you help my nonprofit? Hey, can you help my business? Can you help market these other things? And even though we have the depth and breadth of experience, and for context, this is not to brag, but for context, we've helped elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 US senators, and a president. And so we've done a lot of things up and down the scale. We've done local campaigns, but we could never really serve a business. And so God's really been working on us over the last several years, I think, just to challenge us to do something new and again to grow and get out of our comfort zone and think about how we can have an even greater impact. And so we're doing that now. We're taking what we've learned through political marketing and now using it to help businesses connect and sell more and grow their revenue. And so I am just really jazzed about it because I think, anybody, and I don't know the timing of when this will air, but we've just had an election. And, I still believe that everyone should be involved in the political process. But honestly, no politician is going to save us. And when we put our faith in 100% in those people or in government to solve society's problems, we're just bound to be disappointed. And so I think that the impact that we can all make in our communities, of course, starting first with our families, but also through our business and the impact we have when we think about the employees that we impact, the customers we serve, the vendors, again, the relationships that expand. There is so much impact to do good, and to make a difference. And so we're excited to do that now.
Yeah. So, you shared with me when we got together before that, what's really inspiring this pivot or this next evolution for you guys? What's inspiring that for you? What's causing that to want you guys to want to do that?
hmm Well, personally, like I said, it's just really a calling on our heart. We have, again, for so long, been in a very specific niche that has served us well, right? It's a good business lesson when you know who your customer is, who they're not, and you have a very target niche that you serve, you can excel in focusing on that. And so that has helped us. But we got into some, networking groups. We got into just building more relationships with other entrepreneurs. And we just really felt that we had a lot more to add.
Yeah.
We love the business side of what we do. We love the hearts of other entrepreneurs and business owners, fellow travelers on this journey. And we finally saw more of an open opportunity, I think, a shift in the marketplace where consumers were looking to align better with businesses that they do business with. So businesses and brands, they want to buy from people that share their values. And so
Yes.
a light bulb went
Yes.
off and we thought, hey, we can help people with this. We understand how to market and get people to convert, to donate. But again, selling a product or service is a sale. For a political campaign, you're trying to get a vote. And for a business, you're getting a sale. And so there's a lot of those mechanics that are the same. And we saw an opportunity to take what we know about a specific portion of the consumers, and use that to, again, help like-minded business owners. And
Yeah.
so that's just inspiring when I think, again, like I said, about the greater impact, about how I can take what I've learned, and help people who are really like fighting these battles. They're solving problems. They're making life better for other people through, again, their product or service. And that's just really fulfilling and rewarding to be able to help those people
Yeah.
on that journey. Because again, there's some amazing visionaries doing really big things. And again, a number of the people that run for office are trying to do big things as well. But politics is really a battle of inches. And so it's slow by design, and I'm grateful for that. But again, there's so much that we can do with innovation. And again, things are changing so rapidly now with technology and AI, and so I just get really excited about the opportunities and the ability, I think, to make an impact, to again help these business owners who are service focused
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah. And I love that, the aligned values piece. That is such a huge thing right there. Because when we align with folks on values and stuff, the now it just becomes a co-creative and a collaborative discussion about how can we each bring our God-given gifts, talents, abilities, resources to the table so that together we can do something far bigger, far more powerful, far more impactful than either one of us could possibly do on our own. And
Exactly.
it is just such a beautiful thing. And when I found out about you guys making this pivot, I'm like, ooh, I think this is going to be really good. And so
Well, you asked what inspires me, and I think as we've been doing this, when I have felt the most happy, it's when you get to see again that the shift, I don't want to call it a light bulb moment, but when a business owner who has been so faithful in doing the hard work and setting themselves up for success, they have a great team, they've built a culture, they have amazing customer service, they have a quality product or service, and all of a sudden they see this opportunity to grow exponentially just by a small pivot, and that we can help them do that. And they now realize they can do so much more. When I can help someone, right, think bigger and expand. Because again, entrepreneurship, business ownership can be very lonely, and you can be filled with self-doubt, and you really have to have a good network of people around you. You have to have good self-talk, or a talk track, as some people say. And so when I can come alongside and partner and work shoulder to shoulder with someone and say, actually, you can reach this whole big audience by just letting them know who you already are, just speaking in a different way.
yeah.
I mean, it's just so exciting because, again, they're these wonderful businesses, and I can help them be more profitable and have a greater impact. I mean, I don't know what other better job could you have
Right?
than to do that.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so now that we've got some context set here, I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit, and I'm gonna reiterate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Kristen, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Well, the answer is absolutely yes. And and again, I just love that you're highlighting this for so many people. But for me, it's an interesting, as I thought about it, I mean, there's a number of people who've been so meaningful to me, and even people that may have a short moment of time or a short moment of impact. It's amazing what can transpire from that 5 years later, just a statement that was made or someone that challenged you to think differently about a problem. But for me, I wanted to talk about Eric Turner,
Okay.
who is a gentleman here in Indiana, which is where we're based. And it's an interesting kind of journey. Again, you mentioned my husband. So we work together and have since the inception of the company, really. And so, again, our start in politics, he ran his political campaign for state representative here in Indiana. I believe it was in 2000.
Okay.
And Kurt and I met in college. And so we got active in the college Republicans. And so I then also met Eric Turner as a state representative through that work. And what was amazing is I then ran his campaign a few years later. And so I actually met him through my husband now and through
Mhm.
that work. But he didn't even need a campaign manager, really. He was not under a tough challenge, but he just wanted to give me a shot and he wanted to help me out. This little college student, who's um, trying to build experience, and he was willing to do that, and also willing to be more than patient with me as I didn't know what I was doing and I made a lot of mistakes. And again, I'm sure that anyone listening can relate to that. We all hopefully have had these people in our lives who have given us grace when we have screwed things up. I remember I got the date and time wrong of an event. I was supposed to work advance for him. So I was supposed to show up with him, hand out flyers, right, work the
Okay.
crowd. And I didn't show. I just didn't show. And I mean, that's just unforgivable. And he called me on my cell phone and he was, let me know his displeasure. And I remember racing in my car to get there and trying to salvage it. And I thought surely he would fire me. My early reputation would be ruined. And that was not the case at all. And he is a generous and forgiving man and was willing to let me, make it up to him, prove it to him. And you can bet I did not miss any other event. I was not late to any other event. I was early. Um, but the reason why that he is such a incredible relationship for me to share is because that relationship and his mentorship continued. It continues to this day, honestly. And this is 20 years later.
Yeah.
And so, after that, he helped us when we first started our business. We needed money to pay for our wedding. We got married in 2004, and he recommended that we sell fireworks of all things. We were working in politics, and he thought, well, your wedding's in August. Why don't you sell fireworks the 4th of July? He had some connections and relationships of his own. He introduced us, and that was our first foray into entrepreneurship. And so, what started off as being basically an employee, and then him introducing us to a business opportunity. We sold fireworks for TNT fireworks. If you see them, some places they spring
Yep.
up in Walmart parking lots, etc. And we made $9,000 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I thought, what's with this job thing? I mean,
Yeah,
we
right.
should be, this is incredible. um, and so we did it the next 3 years, or the next, yeah, 2 or 3 years.
Uh-huh.
And we got an opportunity to then, we did 3 locations in Indiana. We then did a location in Philadelphia, and it was the year that it had just become legal. And we sold, I think it was $171,000 worth
Wow. Wow.
of fireworks. And I mean, just 2 kids. I mean, we knew absolutely nothing. We drove, we slept in our cars, we had absolutely no money. I mean, we had to, there was a motel nearby that was the type that you could rent by the hour.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you get an idea of the type of establishment. And we would go there to shower. I mean, but that introduction, that relationship showed us what the thrill of entrepreneurship showed us what could be possible. Um, and we learned about, supply and demand and, we were marking up prices for the fireworks because we were running out. And I just learned so much through that. And it was definitely a trial by fire. It's a story for another time, but Kurt was nearly arrested. I mean, there were so many
Wow. Wow.
shenanigans that happened during that time. But that introduction, really helped us understand this thrill again of entrepreneurship, the American dream of what we could do by being creative, resourceful, hardworking. And that's what led us to then form our company, Prosper Group, which we're not doing that today, obviously, but that's what led to us forming the business that we have today.
Yeah.
And then, you fast forward many years later, he had relationships at the state house that he helped us with. I partnered with his daughter on a lobbying project. We are now actually working with his son. His son is a client of ours who
Wow.
does amazing real estate investing, and is working with us again to take his Reg A and Reg D offer. For those of you, I don't need to go off the beaten trail here, but to offer a great investment opportunity to retail investors. And so I just think about all these little touch points. It's 20 years in the making, and it all started off with him just being kind to, a college student to give me an opportunity. And then he has, believed in us and given us opportunity after opportunity and introductions.
Mhm.
And we had nothing to offer back to him. And so I think, when you talk about being intentional, even though, many people think of mentors as someone that you have at your place of work, perhaps. And I mean, I consider him my mentor, even though it was, at short periods of time at a distance. We have gone to him for advice time and time again, life advice, relationship advice, business advice. And so, yeah, I'd like to honor Eric Turner, and I'll
Yeah.
pause.
Well,
I'm talking too much.
no, you're not. No, no, that was really phenomenal. And I love the way that you talk about him, and and that this relationship goes back 20 years,
Mhm.
and that it was kind of your introduction to entrepreneurship, if you will. And what an amazing experience that you have had, and so I know, you did want to share one other example if we have time, and we definitely do. So I want to ask a question, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to let you share, continue sharing, and then I'll circle back and ask the question that I want to ask and stuff.
Wonderful. Well, the other thing I had in mind, it wasn't a specific relationship, was just, again, so many business owners know this, but the importance of a peer group. And so when I thought about what else has been so pivotal and instrumental in my business growth, it was, we got introduced to Tony Robbins and his kind of community, and we became members of what's called his Platinum Partnership. And wow, I will tell you, being surrounded by people that are encouraging you to think bigger, to grow, to look inward and find out how you can be better. I mean, this is commonly said, that you are the average of the 5 or 6 people that you spend the most time with. And so when you think about that, it really challenged me. We got introduced in 2019 and went to our first event. We went to several events that he held. But once we got into that community, what that did for our business, even I think in the first 2 years, we more than doubled. And there's no way that would have happened. It was 120% growth, all because we were constantly working on the business and doing it with people that were pushing us to do more, pushing us to think bigger, think better, really sharing that burden. And so that's just something, again, I would encourage anybody to look for a business roundtable, right? I know a lot of people look at that from a networking perspective, but look at people who are going to push you and ask you difficult questions and force you to really look at what you're doing and ask you, what is your why? What are the goals that you have? Well, why aren't you doing that? Or what are you waiting for? What's standing in the way? Dan Sullivan, they've got strategic coach. They've got another amazing environment of people. And so just find what works for you. But I wanted to highlight that shortly again due to time. But
Yeah.
those relationships and that peer group has also been so instrumental in all kinds of changes I've made in my personal life, in the health of my marriage and my relationship, but also business growth from revenue, from seeing business opportunities and knowing when to innovate, being focused on the customer, creating raving fans, having an irresistible offer. So, again, all things that are so important to business, but that peer group is essential.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you mentioned strategic coach because I
Mm.
know Dan and Babs well. I've been in strategic coach, and I remember uh having an opportunity to go out to dinner with Dan and Babs when I was at a transition point in my life and in my business. And he pointed out to me something that he's like, Kevin, he's like, this is such, because we were just talking at dinner and he was asking me. Dan is brilliant at asking questions, at not just any old questions, but powerful questions. And
Powerful questions.
yes.
Yes.
And so he was just asking me a lot of questions at dinner. And he's like, Kev, he's like, this transition that you're in, he's like, this is not a moving away from kind of a thing. He's like, a lot of people find themselves in transition because they're moving away from something that they don't want, or that they're not happy with, or that they're uncomfortable with. But he's like, you're moving toward this
Lord.
thing that you just feel that there's something there. And like, and the more you talk about it, the more I see that like there is something there. And he's like, this is going to be so powerful for you, because he's like, when you're in that moving towards versus the
Mhm.
moving away, it's a much powerful and far more impactful experience and stuff. And I just really appreciated that. And he was right, 100% right. It
Mhm.
has been exactly that. And for a while it was frustrating as I was trying to figure it out, and like I knew there was something there. And now here it is 7 8 years later, and we've made some progress on that front. So,
Yeah, his questions and understanding when he talks about radical delegation and thinking time and the exercises that he has you do. I mean, that alone, that'll completely transform your business
yeah,
when you can get very clear on what it is you're doing and why.
yeah,
What have you done to move the ball forward? What is that? If you're not feeling great, what's causing you to get stuck? That was really the power I found again in the Tony Robbins community. Was there so much emphasis on mindset
yeah,
and finding out what's causing you to get stuck? And so, anyway, I could go on and on. So
yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, so I want to, and maybe there's somebody through the relationships that you had built through Tony's group and stuff, or maybe it's Eric. But I was gonna, yeah, I want to ask a question, and I'm sure when I ask this you'll be able to come up with a number of of examples, but I just
mm,
whatever comes top of mind for you. And so whether
mhm.
you look at your relationship with Eric that's now been 20 years, or or maybe it's somebody else, but what is an example of where you personally, Kristen, you had an experience where you made such an impact, and maybe like it caused you to be like, "Wow, that was really awesome."
Mm.
And but you also know that experience would have never happened if not for your relationship with Eric, or with your relationship with maybe somebody you met through Tony's group or something like that. What is an
Mhm.
example of
Mhm.
something like that?
Well, I think there was a business owner who I was working with. We had been set up as kind of buddies or accountability partners at one of these events that was through Tony Robbins's Platinum Partnership, and we were doing a bunch of these exercises. And I thought back to something that one of his trainers had told me that really helped me pivot and surrender when we were thinking about making this, as you called it, pivot. And actually, the little known piece is we were deciding whether or not we might just want to sell our business. And so, for anybody who's gone through that process, I mean, that can be a really emotional when it's something that you're the founder, you've built something
Yep,
for a while, and what will you do next? And for so many of us, our business can become part of our identity.
yep,
And so, well, who am I if I am not, the co-founder and
yeah,
president of this company?
yeah,
Who
yeah.
am I?
Yeah.
And there were a series of these powerful questions that this trainer, Claudia is her name, had walked me through, and it absolutely led me to tears. And I had this amazing breakthrough, again, about identity and who we are and why we're here ultimately. It is not, again, seeking that validation from other people or our worth as humans and as souls based on what we can accomplish, based on how much money our business does, so that when I can get to doing 30 or 40 million dollars in revenue and I think this is incredible, there's always more, that doesn't matter. That just doesn't matter. And so she had walked me through a number of these exercises, and then a couple of years, no, I guess it was maybe just a year later, I had an opportunity to impart that same exact set of questions. And I've now done this for employees, probably 5 or 6 different times when they've gotten stuck in a rut and they're trying to make a difficult decision. And you can walk them through these questions and One instance of an employee was, going through a divorce and trying to decide how to manage that and still maintain the relationship. For another employee, it was the death of a parent. And so again, very emotionally charged circumstances. But this buddy that I had at this event was also trying to decide if she should even stay in business or just give up. And, she was telling me about how, she didn't see it as giving up, but I could tell that deep down she did, right? There's this illusion of failure that if this one business isn't working out, that is a failure. And that's an illusion. And helping her to see that and tap into who are you at your core and why are you here? What are you called to do? Was really important. And she then decided to not give up the business, even though she got to where it was okay. She got past this illusion of failure, and recognizing that only if I can believe that that's true will that hold me back from moving forward and making progress. It's just the curve of life that we're on,
Yeah.
and this little dip is most likely what you need to get you to notice your next breakthrough, your next event. And so that conversation was over, it extended over 3 or 4 days at this event because we were paired up during that time. And by the end, not only had she made a very clear decision, but we had walked through, she had made an action plan. She had already made some outreach to people that she wanted to partner with for a new joint venture. And so seeing that transformation over those 3 or 4 days, which by the way is not unusual at these events. So it sounds incredible, but it happens all the time at these events. But just seeing that and feeling like I was able to speak into her only because someone else had spoken into me
Yeah.
and done that same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Right, that concept of paying it forward and then thinking now she is equipped because not only has she heard it, there's a difference between intellectual knowledge and execution and doing it where
Yeah.
you know it in your body.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't enough for her to have that realization. She had to take massive action right there.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'm glad that you feel like you've made this decision. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Who are the first 3 people you're going to call? What are the emails you're going to send that are going to hold you accountable, that are going to make it real? And we walked through that. And we keep in touch now. The new opportunity that she's doing is very, very successful. She's extremely happy. She's working with other family members. She's found a way to bring them in. And so she's now more fulfilled with her personal life as well. And so it's things like that that just I get very, it's a very emotional thing when you recognize what you can do. And it's not about you, right? It's letting these other people speak, into you and do it. It's being a vessel. It's for
Yes.
me as a person of faith, letting the Holy Spirit guide me to know what to say,
Yeah.
because I don't always have the words.
Yeah.
But yeah, unbelievably powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can feel every bit of that as you share that story and that experience. And it just makes you feel so good. And like we, to just be that vessel who's using our gifts and our abilities to just be of service to others. I remember 2020 when COVID hit, and a lot of entrepreneurs were really I had a good friend of mine he's in the merchant services space, and prior to COVID, a lot of people thought, man, he's genius because he focused on the hospitality industry, travel, hotels, all of that. That was all his clients. And when COVID hit, you can imagine what happened to his business. It
Hmm.
plummeted. And and I told him, I said, you know what? I said, here's the thing, Eric. I was like, I know this is a really rough time for you right now, but you are going to get through this and you're going to figure this out. This is going to happen. And I will tell you, you just start reaching out to people. in
Mhm.
your life, people that you care about, people that you've been serving, that they too are impacted, and just figure out, just have conversations with them and figure out how you can be of service. Because, when we are just in service of others, there is no anxiety, there's no fear, there's none of that because we're focused on helping somebody else,
Mhm.
and that, I mean, and I'll tell you, he now, not only has he come back, he has far surpassed where he was previous to 2020 by just focusing on relationships over the last, I mean, he was good at it before. He's world class at building relationships now. And so,
Well, and when you go to give instead of going to get, you can feel that from someone. At a round table, at a networking event, when you're exchanging emails, even on podcasts, I'm sure you can just tell if somebody is trying to add value. How can I serve? What can I do to help your audience? How can I, be a good partner to you along this journey? Um, and not only can people feel that, so in the end it is beneficial to you, but that's also when you're going to when you are the happiest when you're not thinking about yourself. It gets you out of fear. It gets you out of, anxiety and over analyzing things. Just as being in gratitude will erase fear.
yeah,
Um, those two things cannot operate at the same time.
that's
And
right.
so the same is true when you are in service and when you are driven to adding value. You're no longer worrying about all this other things because you're focused on the outcome. You're focused on, again, how you can serve other people.
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean, selfishly, you're also happier when you do that.
yeah,
So,
totally,
I mean,
totally.
it's a great way to live.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Well, Kristen, I mean, for anybody listening to this, I mean, right now that they're going, man, Kevin, I really love Kristen. I love how she shows up. I love who she is. I love what she stands for. And I'm one of those entrepreneurs. I might like to find out more about what they're doing and stuff. How can somebody do that, Kristen? Is there any websites, any resources that we can try? I know you guys got a book and stuff too, and I want to make sure and like let's put some stuff out there.
Well, we do. We did just write a book, and we're very excited about that. But we created a landing page just for your listeners. So
Okay.
if anyone is interested, wants to learn more, they can go to libertyspenders.com/MDR
Okay.
for $1 million relationships. And you can get a free copy of the book. Again, we wrote it with the express purpose of just getting it into as many entrepreneurs' hands as possible. We're not looking to make money off of it, so you can get a free copy. And hopefully that alone will be of value to you. But if you feel like you need more support, you can always reach out and contact us or look for some more resources on that website.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. Any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
No, I just think again, Kevin, what you're doing is incredible, and I would just encourage anybody who is um, maybe in a busy season of life. And again, we're filming this close to the holidays. It will not air around this time, but if you're in a busy season of life, don't let that be an excuse. Don't let that be something that holds you back from investing in people that are supporting you, who are working alongside you, in the partners. Because again, ultimately, that is what matters the most: is how can we love each other and serve. And so, again, I thank you for focusing on that with your podcast, and I hope people have a blessed holiday season.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate you. And I am just stoked to get this out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs in the new year. So thanks again. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks.